What up, y'all? Check us out, Chuck Ruck with Ruck's Place Podcast. It's Friday, y'all. Hello there.
Hi, how are you?
I'm well. How are you today, man?
Doing great.
Sorry for the time zone. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Albert Bramante. I work in New York City. I represent actors. I'm a talent agent, and I represent actors for film, TV, theater, commercial, written voiceover.
Wow.
I've been doing that for 22 years. I also have a background in psychology, and I've been a psychology professor for also 22 years. I combine, in a sense, like mindset coaching and with just within my talent agency. So, and I wrote a book last year called Rise Above the Script.
Okay.
It's confronting self-doubt, mastering self-sabotage for performing art.
Wow. Okay. Keep going. If there's more, let's hear it.
Yeah, no, like I said, I love what I do. I just love working with actors, and that's pretty much my background. So I my the kind of like the work I do and the kind of things I cover is overcoming self-imposed limitations,
Wow.
blocks, performance blocks, self-sabotage.
Understood. I started this podcast, yeah, Ruck's Place, back in 2020. Right
Mhm.
before the big experience that we
Yes.
all experienced,
Yeah.
and even though I have been in sales most of my adult life, from selling garments to selling BMWs, the BMW dealership, to being in the mortgage business, and also now selling real estate for like 2 decades. So I still had this how can I this blocker, I would say, this mental block of being able to speak publicly, being able to
Hmm.
pick up a microphone, man, and start a
Right.
podcast. That was like, what are you doing with this? My kid handed me a microphone and said, go for it. And so during the time we were in the house, and I
Hmm.
said, why not? And so I said, well, no one's going to listen to me anyway. And so then they did. They started listening to me, and people started dissecting, the episodes that I would put out. And I'm saying, whoa, this is heavy, right? This is scary, because someone would go through every word I said and give me feedback on how it helped them. People started saying things to me like, you pulled me out of a dark hole, and look at my life today. And I'm like, wow, that's great, but the intention was, to get me from to be more
Hmm.
outward, you know.
Yeah, I want to touch upon something you mentioned when you started your podcast, not sometimes realizing the reach that you have and the impact that you make. Because a lot of times we don't even know the power that we have.
Yeah,
Whether we go on live on a mic or we publish written content online, we may be impacted. We are impacting people that we may never hear from.
exactly. Yep.
We may, and there were some that reached you and told you that, but there might have been a whole group of other people that may never have reached out to you,
Yep.
but we're still moved and inspired by the content that you put out. So I
Thank
really
you.
think that that's so important that just to
It's
be, still remain focused on everything.
absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Now, is that something that you've dealt with in the
Well,
people
yeah.
you work with?
Oh yeah. I mean, I see that a lot. I mean, and some people just don't realize, their potential. I mean, even or they just hold themselves back. Like I said, the biggest thing is not putting themselves out there or limiting yourself. And that even was with me too. For a few years I was sitting on this book idea
Mm-hmm.
and I just never, I would, open up the computer, put on the either the Google Doc or the Word document up there, and I'd write a paragraph or two and then wind up deleting it
Oh
because
yeah.
I got so frustrated. And it wasn't until like I was in a mastermind at the time, and they kind of kicked our butt in gear.
Uh-huh.
And one of that was the idea that only 1% of people are going to write a book who actually do. Like only 1% of people who say they're going to write a book actually do it, which
Okay. Yep.
which was like, okay, this is a wake up call. I was easily becoming that 99%.
Oh,
And
wow.
then a strategy that really helped me, was a game changer for me. What I learned from my mentor at the time, who was, wrote multiple books, was to write first and then edit later.
Ah, yep.
And
Yep.
that was for me, that was a game changing tool, because
Okay.
otherwise what happens very often is we become in the loops of like perfectionism, which then leads to procrastination, and before you know it, nothing will get done.
It's true. It's so true. You're so true. Wow, I didn't know it was only 1% actually do write the book,
Yeah.
99% don't. I've written a couple of books, man, and I was in college. I was asked the rights to a story that I had written as an assignment because the teacher was actually creating an anthology that had the likes of Langston Hughes, Alice Walker, Maya Angelou in the book, and she had read my assignment and asked me, if she could use my story in her book. I could write really well, and it didn't matter what classes I was in from, a certain point in grade school throughout college. The teacher professors would ask, would it be all right if I read your essays or your papers to the class? I just really love the way you write. And that particular English teacher that took my work and put it in the anthology, she said, "So are you going to pursue writing?" And I said, "Well, I wanted to pursue law." And she said, "Oh, that's a shame. I thought you would be, a writer versus being a lawyer." And I really wanted to become a lawyer, but I didn't feel like that I had the money at the time. I had had a kid. I was living in Beverly Hills. I was, living a sort of life where I was making money where I thought, what, I don't need to do that now. But it came back to bite me. I wish I would have pursued that. And after that, I decided I'm going to write another book about real estate, about my first real estate transaction,
Hmm.
which for every real estate agent, our first deals, there's a story to tell behind it.
Hmm.
Right? We didn't know what we were doing. We were piecing it together and it happened, when we least expected it. And I decided to write a book. And so I did. And it's on Amazon now. It's called How to Survive Your First Year in Real Estate. And then I went on to do a speaking book, and then I wrote like a recipe book. So
Oh,
yeah.
nice.
Once I got going on it, man.
I hear you. I hear you on that one.
No breaks. So did you ever get to you got it through. You got your book through, and how
Oh yeah, and I'm working on a couple more now. So
awesome.
but the whole idea is a lot of times is stepping through and doing it, and not talking yourself out of it.
Yep.
So a lot
Yep.
of things, like, really a lot of it, performance mindset coaching is almost just like adopting an action oriented mindset. So that what it really just entails is like really coming from I've got to take action,
Yeah.
and and actually accountability is a big piece of it too.
Yes.
So a lot of times people will come around and say, well, someday I'll do this, or someday I'll do that. Like someday I'll start a business, someday I'll, try this. And unfortunately, that sometimes may never happen, because
Yep.
if you don't, someday's not a day on the calendar. So the goal
Wow.
here is to create accountability.
Uh, wow. I absolutely love that. Someday is not a day on the calendar. Wow, you just blew me away with that. That's awesome, man. So what do you see? What is the biggest challenge that you come across in, your coaching with your clients?
Again, it's a self-sabotage, and the reason why it's a challenge is it's when people are engaging or rooted in self-sabotage, they don't really understand. It's not like they're consciously aware of what's going on
Oh,
or that they are self-sabotaging.
wow, that's so interesting. And then how do you point that out to them?
Well, I mean, generally, I think part of like with coaching is, and the way I kind of approach it. I mean, everybody has their own approach, but I kind of feel like it's great. It's more effective when the person can point out to themselves that they're doing this. So
Mm,
I think just asking questions.
yep,
Um, what do you think went wrong here in this situation? What do you think needs to be improved on?
yep,
And what do you think the problem is? And just gently massaging those answers so that they can turn around and say, well, maybe it's me. Maybe I'm the one that may be holding myself back. Because once that insight reaches, that's when you can start changing the patterns and change and rewiring things. The new pathways in your brain and
yep.
nervous system and all that.
Wow, that's awesome. I can tell you this. I started going live on different social media platforms,
Mhm.
and I didn't think much of in the beginning. I was like, this is for children. This is who if somebody find out I'm on this thing, what are they going to say? And it's a thing, Albert, to speak to someone, to
Mhm.
to open up a room and nobody shows up.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, to get on a stage and you're the only one in the room, and or someone
Hmm.
questions
Yeah,
like, well, why are you here? Oh, we didn't know what was going on over here, when it's a planned event. And
right.
it's like, wow.
Yeah, no, I think even with that, that can be a bit humbling. But and sometimes maybe the idea is not to always focus on the how many, but what's the quality. Even if you're giving it to one or two people,
Yep,
that your content or your message may move the needle to somebody,
exactly, exactly.
and you never know. And I've always been the type that it's for me, it's quality over quantity when it comes to that.
Uh-huh.
And so that's the message too. It's like the same thing, even if you're giving, doing something online, doing a live or anything like that, and you get only a few people watching. You never know if that message hits. They'll
It's
be telling other people to start looking out for your content.
it's true. It's true. So the more I did it, right, the more the audience grew. But then again, like I said, it could be from one night to the next that you get that whatever the size of the group is. However, what I came to understand just in my own experience, like I said, it's always a reset. Like I mentioned, I started the podcast in 2020. Nobody's going to listen to me. Then they did. And then I got the feedback. And like you said, I'm reaching people that I never I'll never know that I reached them. It's
Yeah,
great to get the feedback, but it's also great to know that, what, someone did actually pay attention, and someone did visit, and someone did dissect, an episode, and did what they, whatever, used whatever they could. So then I started to position my podcast in a way that it was meant to add value, to give value, to uplift, to give support. And then the people that I mentioned earlier who came onto my podcast and spoke about their journeys, and we had a laugh, we had a good time. Um, People started to, send me messages. That was an amazing episode. That was a great episode. I wish I could see more of that. that guest was amazing. And we absolutely love the pod. And so that is 100% what my efforts are every day on whatever social platform I'm on, is to enlighten and to let people see and understand that we all go through a season. Nobody is exempt from going
Absolutely.
through a season. It is all over the Bible, or whatever your religious beliefs are. It is all over the Bible that, struggle creates character, character creates
Absolutely.
hope. And on the other side of that hope is that you were meant to be. And I say to everybody that you bring something of value. You have a light that we all should be able to stand under, right? And I ran into age. A lot of people started speaking about age. I'm too old. This is things for the kids to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know?
I hear that a lot, especially for actors. It's like, oh, I'm too old to be. No, that's BS. I have clients that are in their 80s,
Yeah,
that are acting and having fun and doing work. So that's a myth, that I hear very often. But it's just self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I'm too old to do this, and
yeah,
actually you're not. If you this is something you really want to do, anything, not just acting, but if there's anything you want to do, you should do it.
absolutely. 100%. I agree with you 100%. And here's the thing, someone really put it to me this way today. There's a 60-year-old preacher was having a conversation on a podcast, and he was just saying that at the beginning, his kids brought this idea that you should start posting videos on YouTube, he said. And he has adult kids. And so the kids brought out the cameras and said to him, "You have given us so much value over the years, that we definitely know that what you have given to us and to your congregation, which is a pretty big congregation, something in an intimate space, something as, simple as a 2 or 3 minute video
Mhm.
that could be put out over social media, that
Right.
someone in a different country could now have some kind of, they have access to your knowledge base, right? The thing that we are as elders, I'm a mid-age guy myself, is that we have all the experience, right? Because we've been here. That's one
Mhm.
thing I tell my kids. It's not that you don't have a voice and you don't know what you're doing when they're making decisions on their own, that I could see right off the bat and say, that might not be a good decision to make. And they say, well, you don't know, you don't know everything, Dad. And I say, well, I don't, but I know I'm 28 years above you. And,
Right.
I've been out here for 28 years, and I've been in that 19 and that 20 and that 24-year-old spot. And
Yeah.
from a general standpoint, I know I took some bad turns.
Yeah.
And I know I had to rebound, and that's why I'm still here today. And I want you to be able to do the same thing. But
Hmm.
another one, thing I want to touch on here is, Albert, when I did, June was Men's Mental Health Month.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Okay. Now, what was very interesting about that was I decided I'm going to do a Men's Mental Health Month of content. And I was going to reach out to my colleagues in the real estate business, in the mortgage business, in the home inspection business, and just people, entrepreneurs. And I ran into one obstacle after another where guys would say, "You know what?" I said this. I said, "Here, guys. All I need from you is 1 minute of your time. Just give me a 1 minute video. Send me 1 minute video that I could add to this series that I've created." And I never had the forethought of it being a very difficult thing for a lot of men. It was
Hmm.
so difficult for many of the guys, and they would say, "I want to do it, I'm going to do it," and they never got to it. Others jumped right on board.
Out.
I mean, the second I asked them, they said, where were you yesterday? I would have did this for you yesterday, and they did it right on the spot, some of them. And some of them are like huge company owners. And one thing, some of them said, I started going to therapy. Therapy has a negative stigma, on especially in our communities. And they said, what I found unpacking through therapy was just the thing that I was really missing, a place where they could feel safe, you know,
and,
and, uh,
and heard and validated.
and exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. So how's the book doing?
Holding its own. We have 31 reviews. I'm working to get some more, but we have a 4.8 rating on
Gotcha.
Amazon.
Wow.
Quite happy about that.
That's awesome.
Getting a lot of praise about the book. So I think it's going well.
Okay.
Uh, I'd like to get it more, out there, but that'll happen through time.
That's awesome, man. That's so awesome. And how'd you find me? I'd love to know that.
Sure. So I use a service called Podpitch, which connects podcast guest to host, and it like uses searches all the podcasts out there on
Yep.
on Apple and Spotify, and I put in keywords for like again mental health, imposter syndrome, self doubt,
Yep.
and yours is one of the lists that came up. So
That is so awesome, man. I'm so glad you did that. I have a community over on Patreon, and
okay.
it's called Ruck's Place Community, and it's on
Mhm.
Patreon, and there's tiers over there, but in terms of what you get when you sign up, it just takes an email to sign up. But I appreciate your time today. This is so awesome.
Yeah, and thank you again for having me on.
Is there
Yes.
anything that you would like to say to my audience?
I would just say just keep working. You have all the, things that you need, all the support, you have the capability to do whatever you want.
That is so awesome and true. Absolutely true. And where can they find you, Albert?
So you could find me on LinkedIn is probably the best, or just go to my website, albertbramante.com.
Awesome. Albert Bramante from Ruck